Senate is reconvened. The guests and senators, please take their seats. Mr. Sergeant at Arms, anybody out there?
Yeah, Mr. President, the House of Representatives and the members are ready to enter the chamber for a joint session.
Please admit the members of the House of Representatives.
Senator. Senator, how you doing?
Members of the House, welcome to the Senate chamber. Speaker Schwarzkopf, President Pro Tem Blevins, if you would be kind enough to join me up here.
You're good to go? Welcome, welcome. Perfect. Bob. How you doing, sir? You all right? I heard you on the radio. You heard me, didn't you? First time. Hey, Kim, how you doing? John, how are you? Good. Wait a minute. See anything bad? Yeah.
Members of the House could make themselves at home and find a seat.
No, I exhaled and you have to be in the way. And for that, I am sorry.
Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. President, the members of the judiciary are ready to enter the chamber for joint session.
Please admit the members of the judiciary. Welcome, members of the judiciary. Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. President, the statewide elected officials, along with the President of the representation of the University of Delaware, State University of Delaware, Technical and Community Colleges are ready to enter the chamber for joint session.
Please admit the statewide elected officials and the presidents.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Welcome to the chamber. Mr. Sergeant at Arms,
Mr. President, the Governor's Cabinet are ready to introduce.
please admit the cabinet. Welcome, members of the cabinet. Senator McBride.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate and House meet in joint session for the purpose of hearing an address by the Honorable Jack A. Markell, Governor, State of Delaware.
Without objection, it is so ordered. Senator McBride.
Mr. President, I move you, as President of the Senate, preside over the joint session.
Without objection. It's ordered.
Mr. President, I move the Secretary of the Senate and the Chief Clerk of the House act as secretaries to the joint session.
Without objection, it is so ordered.
Mr. President, I move that you appoint a committee of 4 to escort the Governor of the State of Delaware to the joint session.
Without objection, it is so ordered. I hereby appoint Senator Hall Long, spokesperson, Senator Cloutier, Representative Blakey, and Representative Brian Short to form the committee to escort the Governor to the Senate chamber. And we will stand in temporary recess in place until the escort party returns with the Governor. You can take a seat if you want. While we're waiting for the Governor to return, if I could introduce a few people who are in the chamber who haven't already been recognized. First Lady Carla Markell and First Son Michael are both here. If you could welcome them to the chamber. I thought I also saw over on this side of the chamber, former President Pro Tem of the State Senate, Tony DeLuca. Welcome back to the chamber, sir. Is Mayor Carey still here? Mayor, one second. Mayor Carlton Carey, thank you for letting us be in your city. And I will reconvene this joint session. Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. President, the escort party with the Honorable Governor Jack Markell has arrived and is ready to enter the chamber for joint session.
Please admit the escort party with the Governor. Senator Hall Long.
Yes, Mr. President, on behalf of the Escort Committee, it is our privilege to present to you the Honorable Governor Jack A. Markell to this joint session of the 147th General Assembly.
Governor, welcome. If you would please join us up here. We're looking forward to hearing your address.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Dan and members of the 147th General Assembly, to other elected officials and members of the judiciary, members of my cabinet, our state employees, Carla and Michael, and the people of Delaware. To our new legislative leaders, President Pro Tem Blevins and Speaker Schwarzkopf, most importantly, congratulations. Thank you for inviting me to address you today. You know, 40 years ago, Korea was widely considered to be a third world country, having barely begun to rebuild from war. Recently, a Korean poultry company purchased Allen Foods in Sussex County and saved hundreds of jobs. This is the world we now live in. Evraz of Russia owns the steel plant in Claymont. German-based Fraunhofer plans to expand its research and development in Newark. Companies from many other countries are important employers throughout our state. This is the world we now live in. Around the country, companies are producing more than ever, but as a result of productivity gains, they sometimes do so with fewer people. This is the world we now live in. There are 3 billion people in the world today looking for jobs, but there are only 1.2 billion jobs available. This, too, is the world that we now live in. It's more global, more productive, more competitive. It is a new world of unprecedented opportunities to create new partnerships, to sell to new customers, to innovate, and to collaborate in ways that were previously unimaginable. But it's also a world with new and formidable challenges to attract and retain employers that have more options than ever, to educate our children to higher standards of job readiness, and to invest in the future as we care for an aging population. And these challenges demand an understanding of the world as it is and a vision of what it can become. And they require us to do as Delawareans have done throughout our history, including many that I spoke of in my inaugural address. Not to choose what's easiest for us today, but to create a better world for our children tomorrow. Now, it's difficult to watch the debates in Washington and be confident that we are up to the task. Progress falls prey to political posturing. Problems get kicked down the road. But Delaware is not Washington. We will meet the challenges of the world we now live in because of the enduring qualities that make us unique. We're a state of neighbors. We know how to move forward together. So let us shape Delaware for the world that we now live in and the world that our children will live in tomorrow. Now, this new world begins in Delaware schools. And I have never been more excited about the great work being done in our schools. In the last year, thousands of students moved from below or average to higher levels of achievement. Graduation rates have improved steadily. More high school students are taking advanced coursework. And more parents are choosing Delaware's public schools. For this, we have great Delaware educators to thank. Now, we've built a strong foundation to improve our kids' education. And 2 years ago, the General Assembly made the single largest investment in early childhood education in our state's history. And as a result, we're on track to increase from 20 to 80 the percentage of high-need children in child care enrolled in quality-rated early learning programs. These are children who otherwise would have arrived at kindergarten well behind their peers. And now, thanks to you, they will arrive ready to learn. For them and for Delaware, this is a game changer. And we made the difficult choice to raise our academic standards for the world that our children will live in. Teachers across the state are transitioning to the Common Core standards, a set of uniform, higher standards that will better prepare our students for the global economy. Now, as we move to these higher standards, fewer of our students will meet them initially. This is not an easy change, but it's one that we must make, and our students will rise to the challenge. And thanks to another investment made by this body, 10,000 Delaware students will participate in a world language immersion program over the next decade. 340 students started the program this year. For example, at McIlvain Early Learning Center in Magnolia, 100 kindergartners spend half their school day learning science, social studies, and math in Chinese. One of the Chinese teachers there, Li Jingjing, had a goal for her students to be able to count to 100 by the end of the school year. Her students achieved that goal by November. By the 4th grade, these students will achieve language proficiency. They will take the AP test in 9th grade, and they will be ready for those 1.2 billion jobs when that day comes. And I can't wait to see how far these kids go. And I'm excited to see more schools offering this opportunity. Li Jingjing is here with us today. Let's thank her and her fellow world language teachers for the great work that they're doing to prepare Delaware students for the world that we now live in. Now, it takes great teachers to keep up with these young learners. Research confirms what parents know, that nothing contributes to student learning as much as a quality teacher. We have many excellent teachers in Delaware. Now, here are 3 ways that we can get more. Now, first, new teachers need to be ready to make a difference on their first day in the classroom. And I recently heard a teacher's account of his conversation with the student. The student said she wanted to be a nurse, but she'd probably become a teacher instead because she didn't have the grades for nursing. As though she didn't need excellent preparation to be a teacher. And this is a perception that we need to dispel. Teaching is a demanding profession, and our admissions requirements for teacher preparation programs should reflect this. So Secretary Murphy will be working with our universities to strengthen the standards for entry into the teaching profession. And just as lawyers take a bar exam before they begin practicing law, we also need a rigorous exit assessment for our preparation programs, which includes demonstration of content knowledge as well as teaching skills. And these steps will help ensure that today's college graduates are ready to make an impact for generations of Delaware students. Now, second, we need to keep great teachers in Delaware classrooms. 40% of new teachers in Delaware leave teaching within 4 years. Every year I have lunch with our state's Teacher of the Year nominees. And every year I hear the same question. Why is the only opportunity for teachers to gain additional prestige and pay to leave the classroom for administration? It shouldn't be. Our best teachers should be able to stay on the front lines of learning. Now, our 2013 Teacher of the Year, John Sell, is a great example. He is not just a teacher of high school students. He's a teacher of teachers. At Sussex Tech, he leads a professional learning community. He served on the Teacher Leadership Committee, and he informally mentors new teachers. As his principal says, John is a multiplier. Please join me in thanking John Sell, who is here with us today. Now, teachers like John should be formally recognized as teacher leaders, role models in their schools who have demonstrated their abilities, are ready to help other teachers, and earn more for putting their experience to work in the classroom. Now, I ask that the General Assembly work with me to formally create this role with the prestige and the compensation it deserves. Now, third, we should strengthen our compensation system to better attract great teachers where we need them. You know, our highest poverty schools in Delaware have almost twice the teacher turnover of our lowest poverty schools. University students who study science or technology and engineering and math have lucrative opportunities that make it more difficult to recruit them into the classroom. You know, first-year teachers deciding where to teach can make thousands more in Pocomoke, in Kennett Square, and in Salem than in Bridgeville or Felton or Bear. And if we're to have the best education system in the country, we can't continue to have the lowest starting and average teacher salaries in our region. Now, we can change this without substantial new resources by re-examining our pay structure, which has not been substantively changed in decades. So I'm asking the General Assembly to work with me to re-examine that pay structure so we can incentivize teaching in high-need schools and critical subjects, to raise starting teacher pay, and to reward teacher leadership. And just as we need high-quality career choices for our teachers, we need high-quality school choices for our families. The application process for choice and charter schools has become too burdensome and too complicated. I talk to parents with children in multiple schools, and they look forward to school choice and charter applications with the same enthusiasm that they have for tax season. There are multiple applications, numerous deadlines, different requirements. And I propose that we create a best-in-class information system on Delaware schools that provides a clear picture of the different strengths in each school. And I also propose that we give parents the option of a common application to make it easier to apply to multiple schools. Now, learning, of course, does not end in high school. The skill demands of today's jobs are rapidly evolving. The days of one employer, one career are over for most workers. It's not uncommon today for workers to hold 10 different jobs before the age of 45. Lifetime learning is no longer an aspiration, it is a necessity. Now, not long ago, the focus of our workforce system was placing unemployed workers back into similar jobs. But the challenge today is far greater. Placing unemployed workers back into similar jobs today often means consigning them to continued insecurity in a field with diminishing prospects. Today, workers throughout their careers, employed and unemployed, have to upgrade their skills to remain competitive. Now, in the world we now live in, we need a workforce system that delivers the training that workers need to qualify for the jobs that employers are seeking to fill. Now, that's what our Department of Labor now does, thanks to partnership with Delaware Tech and others. We should build on this work by developing a Delaware Skills Bank, an inventory of essential tasks for in-demand occupations in our state, and use it to ensure that our training programs provide our workers with the right opportunities. And once workers have completed the training that they need to fill in-demand jobs, we should make sure that employers know it by providing these workers with a career readiness certificate that employers respect and trust. Now, readying a workforce for the world we now live in is a key part of making Delaware an attractive place to do business. And so is providing a nurturing environment for new entrepreneurs. Let's start at the beginning. Businesses that start here are more likely to stay here. New companies create 3 million jobs a year. And Delaware, here we were recently rated the second best state in the country for a knowledge and innovation economy. And we could be a leader in the creation and growth of early stage companies. We've got the people, we have the ideas, and we've got the capital. Now the challenge is to get the people, the ideas, and the capital together as we build the startup state. Now, inspired by successful models across the country, local entrepreneurs have created Started Up Delaware. This is a public-private partnership. It'll serve as a hub for entrepreneurial activity with support from Delaware's financial, accounting, legal, and real estate communities. It'll build relationships with the University of Delaware, with Delaware State and Delaware Tech, among other institutions of higher ed. And DITO Director Alan Levin is working closely with Started Up Delaware to bring these entrepreneurs together and to help them thrive. Now we know that for manufacturers and other businesses, that reliability and the cost of energy is key. We need to expand our portfolio, we need to reduce costs, and we need to improve air quality. And Secretary O'Mara, working with the leadership of our major energy companies, has developed a 3-part strategy to do just that. First, we import too much of our electricity from dirty and expensive sources. Over the last 4 years, we have reduced emissions more than any other state, while also reducing energy bills and health impacts by hundreds of millions of dollars. But we need more local generation. And that's why we support numerous utility-scale, clean and efficient natural gas plants and cost-effective clean energy projects. Calpine's new Dover plant, the conversion of NRG's Energy Center, the Municipal Electric Corporation's new plant, and numerous biogas and fuel cell projects, as well as solar. Now, second, we need to expand natural gas infrastructure across our state. Too many in Delaware are paying too much for energy because they are too far from a pipeline to bring them affordable natural gas. The energy savings from fuel switching are substantial, and they can cover the cost of new infrastructure. To help businesses and residents save money, we're working with both Delmarva and Chesapeake to make it easier for businesses to switch to cheaper and cleaner energy. And third, as Senator McDowell often says, the cheapest energy remains the energy that we don't use. Now, we've made progress on improving energy efficiency, working with the Delaware Electric Co-op. But we can do more to help save money by making efficiency Delaware's first fuel. This year, let's pass legislation to encourage our utilities to prioritize energy efficiency when it's cheaper than buying electricity from the grid. Now, these steps to encourage entrepreneurship and keep Delaware energy competitive go hand in hand with our efforts to improve our schools, strengthen our workforce, and enhance our quality of life. They're all part of our larger effort to make Delaware globally competitive as a place to do business and create jobs. These efforts have paid off in recent years, and they continue to pay off. Senator Bob Venables and Representative Dan Short have been strong advocates for economic growth in western Sussex County. So Bob and Dan, I'm pleased to announce today that ILC Dover will be bringing 115 new jobs and a new production line of packaging materials from Mexico to a new plant near Seaford later this year. You know, in the world we now live in, employers survive only when they hire the most talented workers. And talented employees want to work in places that they're proud to call home. Delaware is blessed with beautiful beaches and parks and scenic farmland, a vibrant arts community, and a great cultural and historic heritage. Preserving and improving that quality of life is vital. Now, in the years to come, Delawareans will be able to walk and bike to work because of the investments we're making today. Delaware is now in the top 10 of bike-friendly states, up from 31 4 years ago. Go ahead, you can clap for that, Val. I saw that. I see you on the trails. It's okay. Our First State Trails and Pathways initiative is connecting neighborhoods and parks and downtowns throughout our state. The Pomeroy Trail connects Newark to White Clay Creek State Park. We're linking Lewis, Rehoboth, and eventually Georgetown with this series of interconnected trails. We're enhancing and expanding recreational access to the Nanticoke River and to Broad Creek. We're connecting Delaware City to Chesapeake City and extending the Milford River Walk. In Dover, we're expanding the Capitol Street Trail along the St. Jones River. And our Bayshore Initiative is protecting the 1,000-acre marsh in the Ted Harvey Wildlife Area. Projects like these improve our quality of life, and they make our state a magnet for talented workers. Now, communities attract business investment by being vibrant with recreation and culture, and also by being safe. Delaware State Police and their colleagues from Wilmington and Newcastle County are working with Attorney General Biden to reduce violent crime in the city of Wilmington. These efforts include intelligence gathering, targeted investigations, and an emphasis on ensuring that those who are most violent are off the street. Last year, I authorized 6 new state troopers from the Violent Crime Fund to focus on this violence and on the drug trafficking groups that commit the majority of homicides in Delaware. This year, I propose funding for 6 additional troopers with the same focus. But troopers and police are not the only first responders who keep our communities safe. As we saw in the horrible events in Connecticut recently, sometimes teachers find themselves on the front line of a tragedy. We pray that evil like that does not come to our communities. But if it does, we need to be prepared. Now, last year, this body, working with Secretary Shalero, passed the Omnibus School Safety Act, which requires preparation of state-of-the-art school safety plans for every Delaware public school within 5 years. It's a laudable goal, but we can do better. And I ask the General Assembly to work with me so that every Delaware school has an up-to-date school safety plan within 2 years. You know, even with the excellent school safety plans in place, we know that ready access to assault weapons and high-capacity magazines by persons who should not have them can lead to tragedy. Earlier this week, I joined with Lieutenant Governor Dan and Attorney General Biden to propose new legislation to help get guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. I ask you to join Representative Longhurst and Senator Henry and others in finishing the job and pass reasonable gun safety legislation that respects the Second Amendment and makes our streets safer. But more police, new crime-fighting strategies, and gun safety, as important as they are not the whole answer. I will never forget going to 10th and Pine Streets in Wilmington days after a 16-year-old was murdered there. It was 10 p.m. The streets were empty. But when I got out of my car to pay tribute to the makeshift memorial on that corner, dozens of people came out to talk, to thank me for being there, to tell me they were tired of the violence, to tell me that all they want to do was raise their children in peace. One 10-year-old boy came up to me and said, "Governor, I don't have anything to do around here. I have no place to go other than the street." That boy's story is the story of too many of our young people. And in a more perfect world, it would not be government's role to address it. His family, his neighbors, his community center would all have the resources to look after him. But too often in the world we now live in, they don't. We know what after-school and summer programs do for kids. Research has demonstrated that they improve academic performance, that they reduce dropout rates, they reduce depression, they improve self-control and self-esteem, and they prevent risky behaviors such as drug and alcohol abuse and juvenile crime. For these reasons, I will propose that we provide more opportunities for after-school and summer activities that get kids off the streets and give them exposure to the arts and nature and physical activity, opportunities that many Delaware kids can take for granted. And consistent with the CDC's recommendations in response to the tragic suicides of 12 of our young people last year, staff running these activities will all receive training in suicide prevention. Suicides amongst our youth are the most tragic child mental health problems in our state. And thanks to the leadership of Lieutenant Governor Den and others, we've taken serious steps to address them. Last year, we worked together to fund new training for frontline school personnel in Kent and Sussex counties to recognize early signs of trauma in children. We worked together with the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine to offer the highest quality training to all of our high schools in detection and prevention of depression in teenagers. Our Health Care Commission uses its funds to encourage health professionals to practice in southern Delaware, where we have a shortage. And we've got gaps in our state support network for child victims of trauma. But now, each child victim has a case manager who helps guide that child's family through the different services that these most vulnerable children need. But there is still more to do, both to address the youth suicides and the many other mental health issues that professionals are seeing in our children. It starts in our schools, where our kids spend so much of their day. We've got the ability to provide some mental health services in Delaware high schools, and we have family crisis therapists in some elementary schools. But we have almost no mental health resources in our middle schools. Only 3 of our state's middle schools have full-time professionals responsible for the mental health needs of students at that critical age. That is a huge gap in our care for adolescents. I asked the General Assembly to join me in addressing this need. I propose a 10-fold increase in the number of trained frontline mental health personnel in our middle schools. This investment will help ensure that our kids get the services they deserve. And over the long term, it will also help Delaware build a better private network of child mental health providers. We don't have enough mental health providers right now. So let's allow pediatricians and family doctors to do telephone consultations with expert child psychiatrists. Let's also invest in long-distance mental health services provided through technology like Skype. Telemedicine like this can help get kids services without waiting for weeks or months for appointments. Simple investments like these can make a real difference in a child's life, and I ask you for your support. At a time when the Delaware National Guard is as busy as they have been in decades, they are still doing all that they can to help us here at home while they're working overseas. And here at home, they're working to help make a difference in young people's lives. Under General Vavila's leadership, the Delaware National Guard proposes to partner with Maryland's Youth Challenge program. This is a residential program for a couple dozen Delaware high school dropouts. Through education and mentoring from Guard members, The program targets young people who can get back on a path to a degree and a rewarding life and career. And because Maryland has all of the necessary facilities, and because the Department of Defense picks up 75% of the cost, this is a very cost-effective way to serve these young people. General Vavala, I want to thank you for your leadership. Now, all of you know what an important role the Guard played in our response to Hurricane Sandy. Hundreds of members of the Guard joined with emergency response personnel to prepare for and respond to the storm. One of those is Specialist Paul Romer from Seaford, who previously served in the 1049th Transportation Company based in Seaford, serving in Afghanistan. During the storm, he helped Delaware residents, and then he went to New York City to help with recovery efforts there. Please join me in thanking Specialist Romer and all the members of the Guard who gave of themselves selflessly to assist their fellow citizens and our neighbors in nearby states. Now, Hurricane Sandy is a wake-up call. Because we're a low-lying state, extreme storms and sea level rise pose a threat to us. A more direct hit could have cost us lives and billions of dollars of investment, thousands of homes, and thousands of jobs. Key parts of our tourism and our agriculture and our manufacturing industries sit yards from the ocean, the bay, and other waterways. Now, given our vulnerabilities, our duty is to ensure that Delaware is better prepared, as I have often discussed with Senator Simpson and Representative Kenton. A dollar invested wisely today can prevent hundreds of dollars of damage tomorrow, whether by strengthening dikes and dams, conserving wetlands, improving drainage, or nourishing beaches. The need for this infrastructure exceeds the resources available, and we need to have a frank conversation about how to prioritize and finance these projects so that we can protect what we can and so we can make realistic choices about what we cannot. I look forward to the recommendations of the working group analyzing these challenges and to engaging with you about the long-term choices we must make for the benefit of our state. Other long-term choices we must make involve the cost of health care. And thanks to the General Assembly, we have the nation's leading health technology infrastructure. It's a foundation that can help improve quality and reduce costs. We're seeing innovative and promising approaches to care throughout the state at our hospitals, and a partnership between the Medical Society and Highmark, Delaware, and in initiatives led by the Delaware Health Sciences Alliance. Let's build on that technological innovation by developing new payment models that reward great outcomes, encourage healthy behaviors, and reduce costs. Now, none of the issues that I've mentioned is easy. To make sound decisions, we have got to look beyond the next day's newspaper or the next election, and we've got to focus on the decisions we make now to create a better tomorrow. The key question for us is, how do we grow our economy so that those who come after us do better? And we grow our economy by investing in our kids' education, in a skilled workforce, and in the quality of life that makes our communities magnets for talented people. And though these investments are more essential than ever, making them is more difficult. We no longer finance investments by divvying up surpluses each year. Rather, we figure out each year how we can save to free up the resources we need to invest. We have done that for 4 years. This is the first administration in modern history, Republican or Democratic, to have fewer executive branch employees than when we started. We cut energy costs. We sold off fleet cars. We integrated information technology, reduced prescription costs. We're saving almost half a billion dollars through health and pension reform. We will continue to find savings wherever they may be, but there are things that we won't do. If it means compromising public safety or turning our backs on our most vulnerable citizens. And while we want to keep our taxes low, and they are attractive here in Delaware, we should not shortchange our children and their future to pay for unaffordable tax cuts today. You know, the world that we now live in is different than anything our parents knew. It's more competitive, more global, and more connected. But it was made possible by their choices and their sacrifices. And our obligation to our children is to prepare the way for their world, a Delaware better than anything that came before it. We must leave a Delaware in which every child has a great teacher, and in which every student graduates career or college ready. A Delaware in which our workforce, our quality of life, and our responsiveness drive entrepreneurship and growth and employment. A Delaware in which our streets are safe and inviting, and in which those so often forgotten among us, adults and youth with mental illness, receive the services and the support that they deserve. A Delaware that protects the rights of all its citizens, no matter whom they love. A Delaware that responsibly protects its natural resources and that understands the risks and opportunities of climate change and sea level rise. We can create this Delaware, but it will require us to put that future and those who will inhabit it ahead of ourselves. Now, in that spirit, Carla and I declared this inaugural week a week of service. Thank you, Carla. Volunteers across our state are donating food, they're giving blood, they're helping our community centers, they're improving our parks. We focus on service this week knowing that every day of the year, Delawareans give of themselves to make life better for all. Some do so as volunteers, others as public servants or citizen soldiers, many just as neighbors. These are the examples that our citizens set, and they simply ask that every day we are privileged to serve them, we act in a manner that makes us worthy of being called their representatives. If we meet that test, if we are as good as the people we serve and lead, we will make wise choices today that will benefit generations of Delawareans for years to come. We will give those future Delawareans reason to greet a changed world with open arms, sure in the knowledge that we did for them what was done before for us, that prepared the way for their success, that we passed on to them a Delaware whose brightest days are still to come. Thank you.
Would the escort party please reassemble to escort the governor to his executive office?
Great job.
Senator McBride.
Mr. President, I move that the Secretary of the Senate, the Chief Clerk of the House, compare their respective journals.
Secretary.
Mr. President, Mr. Puffer, the Chief Clerk of the House, and myself have perused our respective journals and find that they do in fact agree.
Senator McBride.
Mr. President, I move that the joint session be adjourned and the two houses separate.
There's no objection. It is so ordered. Joint session stands adjourned.
Mr. President,
Senator McBride.
Mr. President, I move that the House stand in recess until 3:32 precisely.
You mean the Senate, sir?
3:32.
Ready for 2 weeks?
Senate, excuse me.
I can do the Senate for
They
you.
can stand in recess forever.